Bhagavan Sri Krishna childhood story, sweet pastime of Lord Damodara. One fine day in autumn, in the beautiful land Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda saw that all her maidservants were busy with their household chores. Today, she said, I will churn the butter myself. I will use sweet milk from my own special churn, the butter myself. I will use sweet milk from my own special cows. If I prepare very tasty butter for my lovely child Krishna, perhaps he will be pleased, then he will not search the household of the other gopis to steal their butter. Mother Yashoda began pulling the ropes of the churning rod. As she worked, her earrings shook and her bracelets jingled. Beads of precipitation appeared on her forehead, and malati flowers fell from her hair. She closed her eyes and remembered Krishna. Softly she sang songs she herself had composed about his wonderful pastimes. While Mother Yashoda sang, she felt intense love for her child. Milk began to flow from her breast. A tug on the border of her saffron yellow saree broke her meditation. Awake from his nap, baby Krishna stood before her, rubbing his lotus eyes with his two soft hands. He then reached up and took hold of the churning rod to stop his mother's work. He wanted her to feed him with the milk from her breast. To fulfill her son's desire, Mother Yashoda placed Krishna on her lap and held him gently in her arms. As she nursed Lord Krishna, she gazed into his moon-like face. How beautiful he is, she thought as she brushed back the curls of his soft black hair and kissed his forehead. His cheeks and lips are as red as bimba fruits, and his teeth are white rows of jasmine buds. Once again, memories of Krishna's amazing childhood pastimes enchanted Mother Yashoda's mind. A long hissing sound from the kitchen interrupted Mother Yashoda's meditation once more. The milk, she exclaimed, the milk on the stove is boiling over. In haste, she placed baby Krishna down and hurried off to tend to the overflowing pot of milk. Baby Krishna sat up, feeling alone and angry. My mother has left me, he thought, before I was finished drinking her milk. Lord Krishna's dark eyes then became red with anger. Hot tears rolled down his flushed pink cheeks. Biting his lower lip with his teeth, he stood up on his small lotus feet. From the corner of his eyes, Krishna spotted a stone on the ground. He picked it up and hurled it with great determination at the churning pot. Crash! The pot of yogurt that Mother Yashoda had been churning broke into pieces. Yogurt splattered everywhere and spilled to the ground. The sight of the glistening white yogurt abruptly changed baby Krishna's mood. This yogurt looks delicious, he thought. He then sat down and began eating creamy handful of his mother's preparation with great delight. Lord Krishna's beauty increased as his cheeks, lips, and fingers became smeared with the shiny yogurt. His dark black lotus eyes glanced quickly about. I must find a place to hide. If my mother finds me here, surely she will punish me. Meanwhile, Mother Yashoda had removed the large pot of boiling milk from the stove. Anxious about her beautiful child, she quickly returned to the churning pot. Gracious, she exclaimed, the yogurt pot is broken. Her lovely eyes beheld yogurt splashed everywhere, but her son was nowhere to be seen. Small shiny footprints of yogurt marked a trail on the ground. Krishna quickly carried out his plan. His tiny lotus hands pulled on the edge of the clay container, and thick streams of yogurt and butter poured to the floor. Next, he perched on the wooden motor and fished. Birds and monkeys circled and danced about the beautiful lord, begging some food to eat. As he tossed soft lumps of butter to the monkeys and the birds, he was unaware that his mother, with a stick in her hand, was approaching him from behind. Suddenly, the birds and the monkeys called out loud warning and fled. Lord Krishna turned about. Seeing his mother, he jumped down from the wooden motor and ran away in the fear. Swiftly he sped through courtyards, over meadows, and across fields. Mother Yashoda chased after her son with her stick held high. Flowers from her hair scattered to the ground. After some time, however, she became very wary. Great yogis and mystics try unsuccessfully to capture the Supreme Lord by severe penance and austerities. But the Lord allowed Mother Yashoda to capture him by love and affection. Trembling with fear, Lord Krishna began crying and rubbing his eyes with his two lotus hands. Tears smeared the beautiful black ointment from his eyes. As he sobbed, his red lips trembled, and a lovely necklace of pearls shook upon his chest. Worried that her son might become too much afraid of her, Mother Yashoda put down her stick and mildly chastised him with words. "You naughty child," she scolded. "Why have you broken the churning pot and stolen butter?" Because of her intense love for her child, Mother Yashoda never cared to know that Krishna was the powerful Supreme Lord. Concerned that her child might run away again and engage in further mischiefs, Mother Yashoda decided to bind him with rope. "I will bind Krishna to that motor," she thought. From the household, she brought a length of rope. Standing her naughty child before the motor, she carefully circled the rope around his tiny waist to the narrow portion of the grinding motor. As she tried to tie the ends, however, she discovered that the rope was 2 finger lengths short. Out of compassion for his mother's endeavor, Krishna mercifully agreed to be bound. Only by her love, not by any other material condition, was Mother Yashoda able to bind the Supreme Lord. Knowing that her son was now secure, Mother Yashoda returned to her household chores. Krishna, alone in the courtyard, could hear his mother's sweet singing. "First my mother left me for a pot of boiling milk, and now she has tied me to a wooden grinding mortar. I must do something even more mischievous," he mused. In the garden, side by side, stood 2 tall Yamala Arjuna trees. By his mystic powers, Krishna knew that the trees had been demigods in their former life. Nalakuvara and Manigriva Great wealth had made them falsely proud and addicted to wine, women, and material enjoyment. Once, when they were sporting naked with young maidens in a river, great sage Narada Muni came by. They stood naked before Narada and failed to show him proper respect. "How degraded you have become!" Narada exclaimed. "I curse you both to become trees, but I benedict you as well. After 100 celestial years, you will see Lord Krishna face to face." Lord Krishna meditated upon the twin Yamala Arjuna trees. "Although Nalakuvara and Manigriva are not my devotees," he thought, "I will deliver them from their curse to fulfill the promise of my great devotee Narada." Crawling on his hands and knees, Krishna approached the 2 trees. The rope tied to his belly pulled the heavy grinding motor behind him. As child Krishna passed through the space between the trees, the motor fell to its side, remaining caught in the opening. With great strength, Lord Krishna pulled on the rope, secured to his waist. The trees trembled and shook. Branches and leaves waved in the air. The trunks cracked at the roots. With a tremendous crash, both trees fell to the ground. Suddenly, two dazzling personalities appeared from the spot where the trees had stood. Their beautiful forms were as brilliant as fire. With folded hands and bowed head, they offered prayers to the Lord. O Lord Krishna, you are the supreme mystic, the original person. You know everything, past, present, and future. By your wonderful plan, we have been delivered from the blessing curse of Narada. You appear in many wonderful forms, such as fish and tortoise, to perform wonderful activities. You have now appeared in your full potency to benefit all living beings. O Lord, may we always be servants of your servants. May all of our senses be engaged in your service. Lord Krishna spoke, My devotee, the great saint Narada has been very merciful to you. By his curse, he has favored you. You had become blinded by material opulence. When one faces the sun, there is no darkness. When one meets my surrendered devotee, he will be released from material bondage. Nanda Maharaja picked up his beautiful son. As he untied the rope from Krishna's waist and released him from the wooden motor, he wondered, how could Yashoda bind her beloved child in such a way? He then smiled and understood that Krishna's activities were simply an exchange of love with his mother. Nanda Maharaja carried Krishna to the courtyard and held him in his lap. Both Nanda Maharaja and Mother Yashoda looked lovingly upon their beautiful child. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had bound his mother Yashoda and his father Nanda Maharaja in parental affection. Jai Sri Krishna.
Share and subscribe for more videos. Jai Shri Krishna.